All right, welcome to our weekly office half hour. It has been a couple of weeks since the last time we spoke together because of holidays and life. So it is high summer. Welcome to summer. It is hot as heck pretty much everywhere and raining like crazy where I am. So hopefully you are not too hot and not too dry, not too wet. Happy summer, right? So let's get down to it. We have met before, but again, this is Jessica, the world's most productive nurse practitioner, here doing the thing that we do on Tuesday afternoons at 1 p.m. with our office half hour. I've got a couple of things on my mind. So I've got questions that came to me, but also just some thoughts that I want to share with you. And the first one, as we're here in summer and I've got my iced coffee, iced beverage here because it's hot as heck. I don't get any sponsorship from them either. So nothing like that. Just iced coffee because it's so hot. But it's a luxury to be able to have a nice chilled beverage on a crazy hot, humid day, right? That's a luxury. And we go to the drive-through where we get our iced coffee beverages from. And we probably feel pretty good about doing that, right? So we're going to take care of ourselves. I'm going to do something nice for myself. It's a really, pretty extreme weather day. So I'm going to go and get this iced coffee and I'm going to feel good, right? And it's refreshing, right? It's a little boost of caffeine, which you need midday. I need midday. And it's nice to have something, chilled beverage, iced beverage. I think of time the same way. Time is a luxury. The difference between time as a luxury and pretty much every other luxury that I can think of, or we'll use this delicious chilled beverage as an example. When you can see this cup it's pretty close. I'm running on empty, right? I don't have a lot left here. But when I finish this, there's more where that came from. All I have to do is go back to the drive-through or make some more for myself, brew a little coffee, put a little ice on it, boom, iced coffee. It's plentiful, it's abundant, right? There's no real limit to how much iced coffee there is. But time is the complete opposite. Time could not be more finite. There are only 24 hours in a day, there are only 7 days in a week. We only live to be, I don't even know what's the life expectancy for Americans, right? 78 maybe years. So our time is so much more precious. It's so much more precious and it's so limited. And we really need to budget that just the same way we would budget any other resource. Why are we not looking at our time the way we look at our money? I don't know, right? But with our money, there are some more clear demands on that, right? You get the bill in the mail or in your email, or you have things on auto pay and you see, okay, I spent this much on electricity this month, so I'm going to send a check or I'm going to do the auto pay thing. But with our time, I think it's so much more slippery. And I was driving one day, I had dropped my dog off at daycare, and I was driving to the office after that. And I didn't have any patients on the schedule or anything like that. I had a bunch of stuff that I needed to do, but I didn't have a specific time, like a patient appointment waiting for me. So I was driving, taking my time, and everybody was driving frantically because it was the 8 o'clock hour on a weekday. And I thought, these people are acting, I don't know, right? But these people are acting like time is, they do not have the luxury of time. It was like, say, 8:15, they're probably late for work or trying to get there early or whatever the case may be. And they are frantic about it. And I can understand that, right? I do not like to be late. So if I am late, I am definitely pressed, right? And I'm really trying to get that done. And I thought, how lucky am I to not have to feel that way right now and to not have to feel that way in that bigger sense when it comes to charting, when it comes to patient flow, when it comes to running my visit or running my day. Not having to have that pressure and that stress is such a luxury. And because it's such a luxury, I feel compelled to protect it at all costs, really, within reason. But to do everything I can to set up systems, to think about how I do things the way that I do them, to think about the different levers that I can push or I can pull that are going to hopefully positively impact my time management and the time that's available to me so that I can maximize it. Why do we not look at that more often, right? So I encourage you to really think about that, to think about the luxury of time and how if you are spending more than your fair share or more than your due amount of time in the clinic for unclear reasons. I mean, if it's a patient emergency, that doesn't count. But if you're there until 6 o'clock every night because you need to finish your charting, well, you're squandering that luxury, right? What could you be doing with that hour? What could you be doing after you leave with less pressure? Because if you're there until 6 o'clock, when you go home, you're going to be one of those frantic people on the road, perhaps, right? And you are going to be feeling that clock ticking in an acute way that you might not if you have a system and an approach that is honors, really honors what is your perspective on time. And it's such a luxury, and we have to protect it because you don't get it back. And when you are, I don't want to say squandering because I feel like that's a little negative and a little judgy. But when you are giving your time, maybe not knowingly or you don't realize maybe because you haven't looked at it, but when you're giving your time to your employer maybe unnecessarily, not because of a patient emergency, but just because this charting has built up and you don't have enough admin time, so you have to stay late or come in on a Saturday to do it, you're working for free, you're volunteering. Is that how you would volunteer after working 40 hours or whatever your normal hours are for the week? Would you then go and volunteer in an outpatient healthcare clinic? Maybe not. Maybe you would rather volunteer doing something completely different. I don't know, caring for horses, I don't know, or knitting caps for newborn babies, or planting trees. I don't know, anything, right? But you would probably not be volunteering to do the exact same thing that you're already doing 40 hours a week. But when we are there late, or when we come in on the weekends, or when we bring things home, we are volunteering our time. That is time that is not compensated. Even if you're salaried based on a certain number of hours within reason, right? And it's a little fluid, a little flexible, but it's based on 40 hours a week or 32 hours a week or 36 hours a week. If you're coming in at 50, that's really not what the agreement was. And if you're coming in at 50 hours a week on a regular basis, that's really, really not what the agreement was, right? So when you think of it that way, you are giving that time for free. You are using this luxury to benefit someone else, um, that maybe would not have been the plan in the first place. I am a big fan of volunteering. I'm a big advocate for volunteering, but doing it deliberately, doing it intentionally, choosing where you are going to spend this time because it's a budget, it's a resource like anything else, like money, or other resources. There's only so much of it, and but you can get more money, you can't get more time. So I really encourage you to think about that, to think about the view of time as a luxury and how you can protect that. If you need help, let me know. I'll help you. But the first step really is to think about it, to think about how you are using your time and how you want to be using your time. And is that in alignment, the way that you're currently using your time versus how you'd like to? Or is there disparity? And if there's a disparity that's a little too pronounced, how can we shift that? How can you get that back into a place where it makes sense and you get to have that luxury? And your luxury isn't just in a cup, right? It can be all the time. And you're in the driver's seat. So that's important. That's my soapbox. That's my soapbox for today. I'm going to move on to questions. So the question that I want to focus on today comes from somebody who, I have a prop, who bought a copy of my book, Secrets from the World's Most Productive Nurse Practitioner. You can get this bad boy anywhere books are sold. And you can there's like electronic versions as well as hard copy versions. And they read the book, they loved it, yay. That's the point. I wanted it to be, I hope you enjoy it, but I want it to be helpful as well. And in the book, I definitely talk about the fact that I hate to chart in the room with patients. So they said, you don't chart in the room with patients and you don't chart at home. So when exactly do you chart? Excellent question. I'm so glad you asked. So yes, in the book, I talk about all the things that I think we should reevaluate, that I definitely don't do, and that are things that by not doing these things or by reevaluating these things has made a huge difference in my time management game and has kept me getting out of clinic on time consistently. And for 4 quarters in a row, closing 96 or 97 to 100% of my charts the same day, for longer than that really, but like, reports only do 4 quarters at a time. So these are all the things that have kind of got me there and kept me there. And not charting in the room is one of the things. Oh, I also don't pre-chart. So they forgot to add that, but I definitely talk about that a lot. So I never start doing a note before the patient is there, because you have actual work to do, right? So you should focus on the work that you actually have to do. Um, so pre-charting is a gamble. It's a waste of time. We can get into that more another time, but I don't chart before the patient is there. I don't chart in the room with the patient. I feel strongly about that because that's not the patient didn't come here to watch me type on a computer. I also get fragmented in my attention, and I don't want to make a mistake that's either going to cost me time or something much more serious like medical error. Once in a great while I might need to put in like a stat order while I'm still with the patient, and patients will keep talking, right? And they might say something that's really relevant or really important, and I don't want to miss that. But they also might just keep talking, and I don't want to be rude. And I've definitely put in x-rays that were for the left foot, but should have been the right foot. And then it's like, wait a second, I gotta double check that. Hang on, I gotta get rid of this one and put in another one. And then radiology is like, which foot do you want? Like it's a problem. But I also want to give patients my full attention, right? I really believe in this co-production of health. I really want to be with the patient, having a conversation with the patient, asking questions and listening to responses. And I find that if I am busy looking at my computer or typing into my computer, I can't do that effectively. Some people are able to chart during the visit, and it's great for their time management. And if they feel good about that, they can absolutely do that, right? We have that freedom, but it doesn't work for me. And it actually kind of spooks me. So I really, really, really never, once in a great while, maybe for like a stat order. And even then, I don't do it in the room. I will put the patient on pause. I'll go back to my office, put in that order, and then go back with the patient because it's too much for me. So I don't ever chart in the room. I do paper notes and when I'm with the patient, right? So I have my little clipboard and my paper notes. And I never chart from home because that's a promise I made to myself years ago, and that I have kept and was the best promise I ever made to myself. So when do I chart? Well, I chart between patients. That's the biggest piece of what I do. And knowing how you use your time, not only how you use your time and what's your sort of like perspective on using time, but literally how you're using your time and how long different things take so that you can, almost like a video game or a puzzle, you can kind of put things in where you've got that space. That's how I'm able to get my charting done. I take a lunch break every day, so I'm not charting through lunch either. That's not a part of it. But if you've got 20 minutes for a patient visit, you don't have to spend all 20 of those minutes face to face with the patient. You can spend the last 5 minutes finishing your note or putting the most specific information about that visit into that note. So if somebody comes in with a sprained ankle, you put which ankle it is, so you don't have to keep remembering that all day. And you can go back and like quickly kind of polish it up before the end of the day. But between patients is really when the bulk of my charting gets done. That allows me to go into my next visit with a clear slate, emotionally, mentally, right? Because I'm not carrying these fragments of information around. And I'm also able to listen more effectively for my next patient because I'm not distracted with whatever happened with that last patient. Dictating also is a big part of that. So just makes everything I do faster. I can definitely talk faster than I can type. And it's easier to get that information into the note and maybe sign it or maybe not. But if you have everything pretty much 95% of the way done, and at the end of the day, you just go back and look at those pieces and just click, approve, sign, close, whatever your EHR says. that's going to be a much faster approach. Now, if you're not doing it that way right now, that can be your goal, right? And you can shift in that direction. And, all of these changes are incremental. So it's not something where starting with your next day of patients, you're going to start doing it this way and immediately get results. You'll have to work on it, but it's totally possible in seeing 20 patients a day. So this is not in a situation where, I'm only seeing 5 patients a day or something like that. It's a high volume situation. But between patients is really where the bulk of my charting gets done. And my charts are closed same day because I never have admin time. So that just became a habit to get them closed the same day and not have them lagging. Once in a great while, you might have one that's, more than a day or so. But that is the rarity. That happens for me 3% of the time, right? Because 97 to 100% of the time, I'm closing those things the same day. It's important to me because I can also then put work behind it. If I'm leaving at 5 p.m. and I have my charts closed for the day, my day is done. Like it's as done as it can be, right? And I can move on to whatever else my day, I have that luxury of moving on to whatever else that day has in store for me. So if I have an activity planned in the evening, or I just want to be able to relax and read a book or watch TV, or I crochet, so crochet, stuff like that, I can do that. And I can use that bandwidth for other things. So it serves so many purposes, right? And it is, I think, the goal for a lot of us, but it's kind of a mystery, like how to get there. So when do I chart between patients? When do I get everything else done? Pretty much between patients too. I love a no-show. The no-show is great. It's not great for the bottom line, and it can be not great depending on the reason for the visit. But from a productivity standpoint, in terms of getting things done, I love a no-show because that's a chunk of time where you can cruise through stuff. So, watch for those opportunities as well, either an empty slot on your schedule or a no-show, or whatever the case may be there, and you can kind of play catch up. Right? So that's it in terms of what I've got for you this week. It's kind of a shorter week. I'll tell you a couple other things that I do have going on. If you haven't checked already, we've got Chart Magic is open, and I'm doing like a little test to see what people think. So we've got Chart Magic, which I think I'm going to need to rename to Chart Magic Academy, right? Because that is the big course, which is going to teach you everything about charting and how to do it fast, but good. And also how to get your time back and how to stop volunteering all this extra time at work. So that's Chart Magic, right? You get coaching sessions with me. We talk about like what your particular things are and how we can make a plan and address those things as well. You get all kinds of things like templates and oh boy, what else do you get? You get templates, you get coaching sessions, you get this framework that is going to completely revitalize how you or reframe how you think about time. And it's not just at work, it's your time, right? 24/7. We're always managing our time. So you get those things as well. A time audit, and then I review it and give you feedback and tell you how to use your time differently so you can use it to your advantage. Note review, right? So we look at the content of some notes. We take out all the identifying information, and I can tell you if you are doing too much in your notes or if your notes are right on track, and just a whole bunch of other stuff. So we've got that. That is up. That is good to go. You get CME for this. You get like, I don't know, 8 credits or something. You get CME for doing this. You can use your CME money for this. You can have your institution pay for these things that should have been taught in school but weren't. But then I'm also doing a shorter version that is does not go in as much depth, but uses that same framework to look at the kind of 5, I call it the 5 whys, 5 pillars. You, your note, your visit, your day, and your inbox, and looks at how we manage all of those things and how the pieces fit together and how we can leverage them to make them benefit us. So it's a lot of the same content, not as much of this, a little more hands off, not as much of the support, and not as much of a duration. But a 5-day boot camp, I've got that available too. So check that out. There's links that I'll include. And then also just looking at a 4-pack of templates, note templates that are the notes that I use. They are the same templates. that I used to get this charting done, because you know what? Also, I didn't write real long notes because you don't need to. So the shorter your note is, the less time it's going to take to write or dictate or whatever you're doing with it, the less time it's going to take to read it for the next time you see that patient, right? You're not going to have to dig through all this information. So I have a little mini course that I have there called Not Another Note, Not Another Note. And that is something that we've got like a 4-pack of these templates, but it's also got completed versions for comparison, because the templates only get you so far, right? You need to know, like, what's this supposed to look like when it's done? So we've got the completed versions in there as well. I do a little lecture because, you know, I am an investigator for the Board of Nursing. So I do a little lecture with that as well, to kind of tell you what I'm looking for when I'm reading your notes, and also what I don't need when I'm reading your notes. So giving that perspective, and some other fun things that are kind of previous there. So check all those out. I'll have links below for that as well. If you have a question for me or for yourself or for a friend, you can always ask for a friend about how to use your time better. How do you stack the deck in your favor? What are the shifts that you can make that are going to improve your time management game and get things back in your favor? And how you can be a time rebel, and how you can have that luxury of time? Email them or send me a message, or somehow find me, put comments in, whatever you need. And I can include it on a future edition of Office Hours on a Tuesday, but I think that's going to be it for today. So think about time and the luxury of time, and how you can do everything that you do in a way that makes sense for you instead of making sense for everybody else but you. Okay. And otherwise, I will see you next